Welcome back to another episode of Writing Radiance, which is the writing side of my YouTube channel. My name is Jubilee Lipsy, and I'm a biblical fiction author. I'm the author of the book series My Brother the King and its corresponding Bible study, and then of Sheaves and Stars, which is my latest book that came out in July of 2023. And this is another episode of my writing discussion, my writing tips. Because as you start writing and writing more professionally for other people, putting either books or articles out into the world, you start to realize more and more of how much the craft comes into it. You really have to start thinking about, there's a place for the fun free writing, but then you start to realize, if I want to know what message I'm putting out into the world there, I need to understand more of the craft of writing. And it has been something I've been falling in love with for many years. And so I love to get on here and discuss, what makes good writing work. And I'm always a student of that. One of the biggest things I realized after I started publishing books is that I don't want to stop learning. I'm learning from my own books. I'm learning from what worked well and mistakes that I made. And I'm still looking at other books that I love and finding new ones and finding out, why do I love this? What worked about this? Or why did this frustrate me? So wherever you are in your writing journey, or even if you just love reading, it's so good for you. You're absorbing so many things. Try it sometime and stop and think, even with movies, what makes this scene work? Why do I love it so much? So we're going to talk today about double perspectives, or what I did in My Brother the King. If you've read those novels where you have two equal characters going back and forth. So you have one chapter is Jonathan's perspective, the next chapter is David's perspective, and it goes like that through book 1 and 2, and then book 3 is David and Mephi. Now, you can do a lot of different variations of that. You can have two equal characters, each sharing the book, going back and forth between chapters. Or you could do what I did in Of Sheaves and Stars, where you have a main character, controlling the voice of the story, but then you have little asides where other characters get to weigh in, and it could be in their perspective or not. It could be narration, etc. There's lots of ways that you can include multiple perspectives. But why would you do that? Specifically, what does it do to the story when you have what I did in my series, which is, two equally important main characters going back and forth from chapter to chapter? And the first thing I want to address with this is, as you listen to my writing tip videos, you'll hear me say this ad nauseum, but it's really, really important. Everything you do, no matter what device you're using, it has to be on purpose. You have to be thinking about what it's going to do to the story and what the impact is going to be, and if that's the impact that you want the audience to take away from it. So you don't want to add two characters just because you think it's cool. It would be My Brother the King would be a completely different story if it was all from David's perspective or all from Jonathan's, or if I had tried to do that with both of them and they were not equally important, if they didn't have enough to say on both sides. So you really want to consider if that's something that your story needs, not just if it's something you want to do. So you have to learn to read your own stories and understand how they're different and what each one needs. What point of view, what tense does this story need in order to communicate what I want to communicate? And the reason that I made it Jonathan and David's perspectives is because the story is about their friendship, and they both are equally important. And they both have aspects of the story that need to be expressed that can't be expressed by the other one. And the same with Jonathan's son Mephi, after Jonathan is no longer a speaking character. Not going to give away too many spoilers. But what does that actually do? I've been noticing, not only from my books, but other books that do the same thing. What are some of the benefits, the fun things about having two main characters speaking? Well, the first thing that I've noticed is that having two main characters, going back and forth between chapters, helps you to have some variety in the book. Now, hopefully both main characters are equally engaging and equally exciting, but usually the audience will end up relating to one of them more or favoring one of them more. But sometimes it can get, the plot line for one character can get really intense or really confusing. And it's nice to be able to back off of their perspective and go to another perspective. So there's variety in the book, again, if it works. Another cool thing that happens when you have two main characters both talking back and forth is that you actually end up reading more in one sitting, or you're at least encouraged to read more in one sitting than you would ordinarily, because when you get to the end of one chapter, you don't get to move on to the next chapter and have that character's arc resolved or their problem resolved. You start with another character. And so now you have two characters that you want to know what happens to them. So I find that for my part, I want to read more in one sitting. And a lot of my friends, a lot of people told me they wanted to read more in one sitting of my books because they had two characters that they were invested in. And the third thing is that you actually know more as the audience member, and you know it quicker. So because you have the benefit of multiple perspectives, you have those delicious moments where you briefly know more than one of the characters. You're in it with this character and you have the benefit of their perspective and their vantage point that the other character doesn't have. But then maybe you switch to the next character and you realize that the other character is believing a lie. So there's these brief encouraging moments, the exciting moments where you understand things that the character doesn't, or you see things that the other character is not able to. And so it's like you get the benefit of being friends with both perspectives. There's so many cool things that can happen with these plot and character devices. And I would encourage you, if you're just a free writer, studying the craft does not have to mean that you lose your freedom as a writer, your freedom of creativity. These kinds of things, actually learning how to use them and what they do to a story, are so exciting and can actually set your imagination on fire. So I would encourage you to actually do the research and learn about these devices, learn about the craft, learn about how they work well in books that you love, or even in films that you love. It will really transform your writing. So these are a few things to consider if you are thinking about having multiple perspectives in your stories.